My best friend jokingly told my wife I had a secret gambling addiction. The laughter died the second he saw her face. I still remember the icy silence that followed his so-called punchline. We were at a casual backyard barbecue at our home, in a quiet, tree-lined suburb of Chicago. The air was thick with the smell of charcoal and grilled meat. My wife, Anya, was handing me a plate of burgers fresh off the grill, her smile warm and trusting. That smile vanished, replaced by a look of such profound shock, and heard it felt like the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Anya is a financial analyst, a woman whose world is built on stability, predictability, and control. It's how she survived her chaotic childhood. Her father had a problem with gambling, a polite term for a disease that drained their savings, mortgaged their home, and ultimately tore their family apart. She watched her mother cry at the kitchen table, counting pennies for groceries. She'd told me these stories in hushed, painful tones late at night, and I had held her, understanding that this was a wound that had never fully healed. For her, financial infidelity was a specific, visceral kind of betrayal, almost as painful as a romantic kind. And my idiot best friend, David, thought it would be a hilarious prank to tap into that exact trauma. David and I have been friends since college. We were roommates for years, navigated our first terrible jobs together, and were best men at each other's weddings. Our friendship was built on a foundation of mutual ribbing and stupid jokes. We once filled his entire dorm room with inflated balloons. For his 30th birthday, I hired a mariachi band to follow him around for an entire day. It was our dynamic, and it had always been in good fun, or so I believed. The barbecue was David's idea. He'd said he wanted to celebrate a recent promotion at his firm. He arrived with his girlfriend, Sophia, and a couple of other mutual friends from our college days. The mood was light, filled with the easy camaraderie of old friends. We drank craft beers, played cornhole, and reminisced. Anya, who is usually a bit more reserved around my rowdier friends, was laughing and seemed to be genuinely enjoying herself. I felt a surge of happiness, seeing the two most important parts of my life coexisting so harmoniously. I should have known David was planning something. He gets a certain glint in his eye when he's about to unleash a prank. I noticed it when he was telling a long, convoluted story about a client, but I was too relaxed, too content to be on my guard. The moment came as we were all sitting around the patio table, finishing our food. David clinked his bottle with a fork to get everyone's attention. "Hey, everyone, I just want to say thanks for coming," he began, a smirk playing on his lips. "And I especially want to thank Ben here for hosting us. It's the least he could do, considering how much of my money he's been losing lately." There was a beat of confused silence. A few people chuckled uncertainly. David plowed on, slapping me on the back. "Oh, come on, Ben, don't be shy. Tell everyone about your new hobby. The online poker? The sure thing sports bets? I covered for you last week when you couldn't make rent, but you've got to get this under control, man." He was laughing, expecting everyone else to join in, but the laughter died in their throats as all eyes turned to Anya. The color had drained from her face. She looked from David to me, her expression a terrifying mix of confusion, dawning horror, and utter betrayal. "What is he talking about, Ben?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "It's a joke, honey," I said quickly, shooting a death glare at David. "A stupid joke. David, tell her the joke." David, finally registering the atmosphere had shifted from jovial to mortifying, waved his hand. "Yeah, Anya, relax. It's just a bit. April Fool's, a few months late." He chuckled, but it sounded forced and nervous. Anya didn't even look at him. Her eyes were locked on me. Is it a joke? Because it doesn't sound like a joke. It sounds like something you would hide from me. I'm not hiding anything." I protested, my heart starting to hammer against my ribs. "David, this isn't funny. Apologize." Now. David's face fell, realizing he'd seriously miscalculated. Anya, I'm sorry, it was a dumb prank. I thought it would be funny. Funny, Anya repeated, the word flat and lifeless. She stood up, her movement stiff. You think joking about the thing that destroyed my family is funny. She turned and walked into the house without another word, the screen door slamming shut behind her. The silence on the patio was deafening. Sophia looked mortified. Our other friends stared at their plates. What the hell, David? I hissed, my face burning with a mixture of anger and shame. You know about her father. How could you be so stupid? His bravado had completely deflated. I don't know, man. I just thought of the first thing that would seem shocking. I didn't think she'd take it so seriously. That's your problem. You never think. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the patio stones. I think you all should leave. Now. There were no arguments. They gathered their things quietly and filed out. David tried to mutter another apology, but I just shook my head, too furious to speak. I watched them drive away, then braced myself to go inside and face the damage. I found Anya in our home office, sitting at the desk. My laptop was open, and she was scrolling through her joint bank account statements, her face a stony mask. Anya, please, I said from the doorway. You know I would never do that. You know me. Do I? She asked, not looking away from the screen. I thought I knew my father, too, until I found out he'd been lying to us for years. She finally turned to look at me, and the pain in her eyes was a physical blow. He made jokes, too, Ben, right before the eviction notice came. He told my mother not to worry about the bills, that he had it under control. He was laughing. I am not your father, I said, my voice low and intense. I have never lied to you about money. I would never gamble away our future. Our life. Then why do I feel like I'm 17 again, watching my world fall apart, she whispered, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. She closed the laptop with a sharp click. I need some time alone. She slept in the guest room that night. The first time we had ever been separated in our own home. The house, usually so full of warmth and quiet companionship, felt cold and alien. The next few days were a special kind of hell. Anya was polite but distant. She spoke to me in short, functional sentences about household chores or work schedules. The easy intimacy we shared was gone, replaced by a wall of suspicion that David's idiotic words had built. She didn't ask to see my phone or my personal accounts again, but the unspoken request hung in the air between us, a constant, accusatory presence. Meanwhile, David was blowing my phone. Hey man, I'm really sorry. She really took that the wrong way. Is she always this sensitive? Come on, don't ghost me. It was a joke. His text shifted from apologetic to defensive, and then to resentful. I can't believe you're choosing to die on this hill, Ben. Over a joke. It's not like I accuse you of something real, like having an affair. The comparison made me see red. He just didn't get it. The specific nature of the crime was the entire point. He had, whether he meant to or not, attacked the very foundation of Anya's sense of security and, by extension, our marriage. My attempts to explain this to my own family were met with similar bafflement. My sister, Clara, who has always been close with David, called me. David feels terrible, Ben, she said. You know he'd never actually want to hurt Anya. He just has a stupid sense of humor. You need to forgive him and move on. Don't let a joke ruin a 20-year friendship. It's not about the joke, Clara, it's about the target. I tried to explain frustration tightening my voice. If he'd put my car on cinder blocks, we'd be laughing about it. But he targeted my wife's deepest insecurity for a cheap laugh. He didn't prank me. He traumatized her. Clara sighed, the same sigh she used when she thought I was being dramatic. You're always so serious now that you're married. You used to be fun. That comment stung more than I cared to admit. It framed my loyalty to my wife as a character flaw, a loss of my former, more fun self. It made me feel like I was trapped between two identities, the loyal husband and the easygoing friend. A week after the incident, I came home from work to find Anya sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, staring out the window. She looked exhausted. "We need to talk," she said softly. My heart sank. I sat down across from her, bracing for the worst. "I can't live like this," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Every time you're late from work, every time your phone buzzes, a part of me wonders, and I hate that part of me. I hate that your friend planted that seed." "There is no seed, Anya," I said, reaching for her hand. She let me take it, but her fingers were limp. "There is nothing to wonder about. I love you. I am committed to this life we're building, to our financial security, to everything we have." "I know you are," she said, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of the old trust in her eyes. Intellectually, I know that, but he didn't just make a joke. He made me relive the worst period of my life. He made me feel that same powerlessness, that same fear. "And you," she paused, choosing her words carefully. "You didn't defend me in the moment. You let him finish his little monologue. You let me sit there, feeling like a fool." It was the truth, and it hit me with the force of a physical blow. I had frozen. I had been so shocked and embarrassed by David's stupidity that I hadn't immediately shut him down and comforted my wife. My inaction had been as damaging as his action. "You're right," I admitted, my throat tight. "I failed you in that moment, and I am so sorry. It will never happen again." She took a deep breath. "I believe you, but I need to know that you understand why this is such a big deal to me. It's not about being sensitive. It's about survival. My family didn't survive it. I barely did. I will not let that poison into our marriage. What do you need from me?" I asked, my voice raw. "Just tell me and I'll do it." She looked me directly in the eyes. "I need you to choose. I need you to make it unequivocally clear to David that what he did was unacceptable, that he deeply hurt your wife, and that there will be consequences for our friendship until he offers a real, genuine apology. Not I'm sorry you were offended apology, but I was wrong, and I understand why it was hurtful apology. And until that day comes, if it ever does, I don't want him in our lives. I don't want him in our home. And I need to know that you are on my side completely." It was a stark ultimatum. The finality of it terrified me. David had been a brother to me. But as I looked at Anya, at the woman who had chosen to build a life with me, who trusted me with her deepest pains, the choice was suddenly painfully clear. I stood up, walked around the table, and knelt beside her chair. "There is no choice to make, Anya. You are my wife. You are my family. My loyalty is to you, first, last, and always. I will handle it." I sent David an email that night. It was long and detailed. I didn't yell or curse. I calmly explained the history of her father's addiction. I described the years of financial anxiety and trauma it had caused her. I laid out, in no uncertain terms, how a joke had ripped open those old wounds. I told him that his subsequent texts, shifting the blame onto Anya for being sensitive, had only compounded the injury. I ended the email by stating that our friendship was on indefinite hold, and that any hope of reconciliation would require a sincere, empathetic apology directed at Anya, and a demonstrated understanding of why his actions were so destructive. I did not ask for a response. I simply sent it and blocked his number. The fallout was immediate and ugly. David forwarded my email to my sister. Clara called me, furious. "How could you send something like that to him? You're throwing away a lifetime of friendship over this?" She's turned you against your own family. She is my family, I said calmly, a strange peace settling over me now that the decision was made. And she hasn't turned me against anyone. David did that all by himself, and you're helping him by refusing to see my side. I hung up. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. For the next month, a cold war existed between me and that part of my social circle. There were whispered comments at family gatherings I didn't attend. I heard through the grapevine that David was telling people I was whipped and that Anya was controlling. It hurt, but the clarity of my position was its own armor. Slowly, things began to thaw at home. Anya saw my actions. She saw that I had chosen her, not just in word, but in decisive, difficult action. The wall of suspicion began to crumble. One evening, about 6 weeks after the barbecue, she came and sat next to me on the couch, leaning her head on my shoulder, a simple gesture we hadn't shared since the incident. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" I asked, kissing the top of her head. "For choosing us." That was the turning point. The trust, while scarred, began to regrow, stronger for having been tested and fiercely defended. Nearly 3 months later, a letter arrived in our mailbox. It was addressed to Anya in David's handwriting. My first instinct was to throw it away, but I gave it to her. "This is for you," I said. "You decide what to do with it." She took it to the kitchen table and read it in silence. I busied myself with making dinner, giving her space. After a long while, she came into the living room, the letter in her hand. "He apologized," she said, her voice quiet. "A real one. He said he'd done some reading on the impact of parental gambling on adult children. He said he was an arrogant fool who thought only about the punchline and never about the person on the receiving end. He said he misses you, and he understands if I can't forgive him, but he wanted me to know he is truly, deeply sorry." I looked at her, waiting. "What do you think?" She was quiet for a moment more. "I think he might finally understand." She didn't say she forgave him. She didn't invite him back into our lives. But she acknowledged the effort. For now, that was enough. The friendship with David would never be what it was. The blind trust was gone. But the door was now open just a crack for something new and more mindful to possibly grow in its place, in its own time. My marriage, however, was no longer in question. We had faced an external threat, and we had emerged not just intact, but fortified. That night, as we lay in bed together, Anya's back curled against my chest, I felt a profound sense of peace. The nightmare was over. We had chosen each other, and in doing so, we had saved ourselves.